have to make sure no one's in the
Yeah,
bathroom.
the reason he specifies for the family being there is because they will. It's not even for a sense of like intentional punishment.
Right.
It is a calculated decision that those people won't rise up. They will understand
Yes.
the consequences for fucking with them.
And
that's it.
And the target probably wouldn't be thinking about that kind of a thing, right?
Yes.
If he's in a club or he's with his boys, whatever, there can be some type of tense who's after me, whatever, but you're with your family. You're
On
in a
your
family
birthday,
restaurant on
at
your
a family
birthday.
restaurant, yeah.
There's, you're not thinking about it at all.
And when he walks in the door, the thing that he's thinking about is that, sometimes for a thing like this, you should go to the washroom beforehand.
Right.
Because he's just
You don't want to be uncomfortable.
Well, because the main thing he says is, you want to go in there, you want to go in there and check and see that obviously there's no one you have to be surprised by who's in the washroom.
Yep.
Which is always a funny staple of crime movies, is that there's someone totally coincidentally in the washroom. I'm thinking like Pulp Fiction with John Travolta in the washroom,
Right,
like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he says to avoid that, you go to the washroom. Also, if you got to go to the washroom, you don't want to be uncomfortable when you're murdering someone.
Yeah.
So and then what he says is, but I already went to the washroom, so I'm just gonna get to work.
Yeah. And then boom, shots go off. Oh man.
And just listening to
so cold.
Yeah, it is so ruthlessly cold and vicious and disturbing.
It's
and
almost
the
like the fact that there's no hatred involved makes it even worse.
It's so much scarier.
Yeah,
because
it's just contractual
it's
death.
treating people's life as nothingness.
Yeah, exactly.
And Scorsese's filmmaking is so in tune with a character who thinks that way that it's disturbing to watch.
Absolutely.
And that's why I think the sequence where he kills Hoffa actually is the scariest thing Scorsese has ever filmed, because he notably, somehow, in a movie that already was very stripped down and bare already, there's no fancy shots. There's hardly even any camera moves. The camera is just planted firmly in the car, or just outside the car as he pulls out, or in the doorway as he's walking into the apartment where they're going to kill Hoffa. And there's no score. It is dead silent. And it's a 20 or 30 minute long sequence where he lands in Detroit, and the whole time, it is just him doing it as a job. He is in job mode, 100%. He is like, I've done this a million times before. We're going to take Hoffa back here. But they don't tell you what the exact plan is. So you're sitting there just watching him.
Yeah, you get to go walk into the house beforehand when they're setting all the stuff up. But there's no dialogue. There's no all right, so he's going to walk in and then you're going to do this.
Yeah.
And there's none of that.
And I watched it with my girlfriend, and when we were watching it, when he got shot, she was shocked. Because it's somehow, despite the fact that they've told you over and over again what he's going to do, it's still like this.
You want to almost believe that Frank has it
at the last minute. He won't do it, but what he does is he goes through what is the most significant moment of his life, like it's work.
Yeah.
And he kills the only person in his life who meant anything to him, like work.
Yeah.
And even after that, he doesn't realize that's what he's done. He the shots of him pulling Al Pacino's body across,
closer or further away from the
laying
door,
the gun out, walking out the door, and just holding that shot of Pacino dead on the ground, going from a person who was like, "Come on, Frank," and who believed thoroughly in him, who didn't get into that car because he was suspicious until Frank goes, "Yep," and tells him, "You'll be fine. Everything's great. We're going to figure this out together, man."
And you know what I think the scariest just cherry on top of that scene is going back to, is it Florida that they're at?
Yeah.
And fucking Pesci is still waiting in the car. Just
gives him his sunglasses
gives him back. And because he's just been waiting for the job to get done.
Yep.
There's something extremely horrifying about him just sitting still, waiting for Jimmy Hoffa to be murdered by someone he also knows. Joe or Russ knows that even though Frank is pretty much a sociopath, he knows that Hoffa means something to him in some way. And
he even tells him, "I know how you feel."
Yeah. I empathize with you.
Yes.
Yeah, for
But
real.
and he's like, I had to put you into this. I had to unknowingly have you be part of this hit because otherwise you wouldn't have let it gotten done, which is true. And I think De Niro's acting in that scene where he's convincing De Niro to get into that car. He's just like, yeah,
And also to watch Hoffa, because Hoffa is sharp.
Yep.
Sharp as attack.
Yep.
And the only reason
he's
he got
so
in that
suspicious
car,
of
because he's like, you guys are 40 minutes late. If you're 10 minutes late, I'm going to fucking ream you.
His son is in the car with a guy he doesn't know.
Yeah.
And he's like, so he's so suspicious. And it's not until Frank gives him the go-ahead and said, everything's fine.
I'm your friend.
And Frank weaponizes his relationship with him to put him into a cold hit.
Yeah.
And
it's just unreal.
And Scorsese puts you in the point of view of the guy who's doing that.
Yeah.
Of the guy who is doing that, abusing in that situation.
And he had to add this dialogue too. Right before they go into the house, he turns to Frank and he goes, "Do you have your gun?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Yep, right here, man."
Yep.
It's just like, oh my God,
Frank
my
doesn't
heart.
even consider for a second, or sorry, Jimmy doesn't consider for a second
that this is what's
could
happening.
be used on him.
Yep.
He's like, no, Frank is my protection. He's my friend. He's here to help me.
It's just so fucking cold.
It's so brutal.
Go ahead.
Oh, and I was going to say, well, and that brings us into the last hour of the film, which is just his slow, which is, again, probably, I think, one of the best things Scorsese has ever directed.
Yeah.
Which is just basically a 40-minute long sequence where De Niro just decays and ages. His body starts failing on him. He starts falling over.
And he does it so like it's not quick because it is 40 minutes, but the way that he starts to, it's like as it closes in, the sequences get shorter and shorter and shorter. Yeah. So you have like big sequences like the prison sequence where it's with Russ and him and they have like a bit of a conversation.
Oh my God.
Russ, actually, this is like the only emotion that he shows is at the very end when he goes, fuck him. Because it's like, it's him trying to convince himself that this was all worth it.
Yes.
Right? And it's like, my God.
That sequence in particular with him and Pesci in prison, and they've really aged them up since there. We haven't talked about the de-aging aspect of it.
Joe Pesci.